This is Michael Wilson. There is a new report looking at transgenderism in America. Now, I believe that the Bible teaches that God made us male and female, and no matter our own feelings or even our confusion, we should act in accordance with the biological reality of God's good design. So, transgenderism falls short of the glory of God and is not the way to walk in obedience to the Messiah Jesus. Now, here's what Jesus said. Listen carefully. In the original creation, God made male and female to be together. So we're in a battle. It could be demonic, spirit of confusion, potentially a spirit of lust, seeking to overwhelm us and collapse our society. Consider this from the Apostle Paul. He's clear about what is going on. Are you confused about your gender? It is a spiritual battle, but God has given us the tools to win the battle. Jesus has already won the war. So Paul says, we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers and against authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in heavenly places. So Byron York at the Washington Examiner reports that there is a new look at transgenderism in America. The Washington Post and the Kaiser Family Foundation have done a study on American adults classified as trans. First, the study cites a number of adults classified as trans in the United States. The figure is actually not from the study, but from one done last year. What it says is that the 1.6 million people in the US aged 13 and above call themselves transgender. With a US population of 333 million, that works out to slightly below one half of 1%. And that's above the age of 13. If you bump the age up, it's even lower. So this is, in other words, a very small group. And the number 1.6 million includes a significant number of young Americans between the age of 13 and 17 who increasingly call themselves trans. To the degree that that reflects a certain amount of social contagion, call it hysteria, is not some new, never before seen biological reality. The total estimate of trans people in America, 1.6 million, might actually shrink in the next few years as those who are 13 and 17 actually age. So the survey covers some basic facts, and it's about the lives of people who call themselves trans. So, for example, it reveals that a large majority, 70%, of people who call themselves trans have never used hormone treatments. An even larger majority, 84%, have never had surgery. Most of them told researchers they simply changed the type of clothes they wear or their hairstyle. Now remember the headline. Most trans adults say transitioning made them more satisfied with their lives. The study's results make that clear that in most cases, increased life satisfaction came without hormone treatments or surgery. And yet today, there's an alliance of activists on the left, Marxist, socialists, ideologues, interest groups, for-profit medical enterprises, and astonishingly, the Biden administration's public health departments that are promoting life-altering, irreversible procedures for young Americans. This is just out and out evil. They've given it a euphemistic name, gender affirming care. Who could be against that? Gender affirming care. And they've established medical facilities that specialize in those drastic treatments. They've castigated conservatives, Republicans, Christians who disapprove of such procedures for the people under the age of 18, as if that were hateful and bigoted, rather than a well considered and entirely reasonable position, which it is. So the survey also looked at everyday behavior of the people who call themselves trans. It found that a large majority, 70%, do not present themselves as trans in public all the time. Some never do. Trans people are always don't always present as gender other than the one they were assigned at birth, the article says. 3 in 10 trans people physically present as different gender all the time, while only 20% do most of the time, and another 34% as a different gender some of the time, and a small but significant share, 16%, they never present physically different than the gender assigned at birth. So finally, the survey found that a majority of people characterized as trans actually prefer to be referred to as something else. Researchers found that 62% of those surveyed prefer to be called non binary or gender non conforming, while only 22% prefer to be called a trans woman and 12% a trans man. So, what does this all mean? First and most important is that the growing trans industry needs to hit the brakes on performing life-altering, irreversible procedures, surgery, and puberty-blocking hormone treatments on minors. Again, I've said it, but it is true. That is evil. People are capable of deciding to have such procedures once they're old enough. I don't encourage it. And the evidence in the survey suggests that a large majority ultimately do not choose hormones or surgery. So if the issue were less political and less impassioned, and if there were not a big money at stake for the medical institutions that have gone all in on the trans business, if all that were true, the situation would be much, much better. So what's the bottom line? Jesus and his truth is the solution.